Rise of nationalism in Europe. Let us discuss the details of the chapter. History, Chapter 1, Rise of Nationalism in Europe. On the screen, we can see the pictures of the dream of worldwide democratics and social republics, the pact between nations, printed by Frederick Chariot in 1848. The painter here is basically from France. It visualizes a series of 4 prints visualizing his dream of a world made up of democratic and social republic, as he called them. In the first picture, we can see people of Europe and America, men and women of all ages and social classes, marching in a long train and offering homage to the Statue of Liberty as they pass by it. As we would recall, the artist of the time, French Revolution, personified the liberty as a female figure. Here we can recognize the torch of enlightenment. She bears in one hand the character of rights, the Charter of Rights of man in the other hand. On the earth, the foreground of the image line, the shattered remains of the symbols, the absolute nationalist and the insurgent utopian vision. The people of the world are grouped as distinct nations, identified through their flags and the national costume. Leading the procession way past the Statue of Liberty are the United States and Switzerland, which are the only 2 nation states at the point of time when the picture is drawn, and France, identifiable by revolutionary tricolored flag. The picture, the left hand side, has just reached the statue. She is followed by the people of Germany bearing a black and the red flag. And then interestingly, at the time when Chariot created this image, German people did not even exist as a united nation. The flag they carry is an expression of liberal hopes in 1848 to unify the numerous German-speaking principalities into a nation state under a democratic constitution. Following the German people are the people of Austria, the Kingdom of 2 Sicilies, Lombardy and Poland, England, Ireland, Hungary and Russia. From the heavens above, the Christ, saints and angels gaze upon the scene. They have been used by the artist to symbolize fraternity among the nations of the world. Now, moving on to the next part of the chapter, the French Revolution. French Revolution is the first clear expression of nationalism which came with the French Revolution in 1789. Now France, as a full-fledged territorial state in 1789 under the rule of an absolute monarch, got changed in the political and the constitution in the wake of French Revolution, which led the transfer of power from sovereignty to monarchy to a body of French citizens. The revolution proclaimed that it was the people who would henceforth constitute the nation and shape its destiny. From the very beginning, the French revolutionaries introduced various measures and practices to create the sense of collective identity among the French people. The idea of la patrie and le citoyen, which are the fatherland and the citizenship, were emphasized as the nation to launch or to create the identity of equal rights among all the people, and it is also mentioned in the constitution. There is also a new flag which is being created. It's a tricolour flag chosen to replace the former royal standard flag. The Estates General was elected by the body of active citizens and renamed them as National Assembly. The new hymns were composed, oaths were taken, martyrs were commemorated, all in the name of the nation. A centralized administrative system was put in place as it formulated uniform laws for all citizens within its territory. Internal custom duties and dues were completely abolished everywhere, and a uniform system of weights and measures was adopted. The regional dialects were discouraged, and French, as it was spoken and written in Paris, became the common language of the nation. We can also see here the revolutionaries further declared that it was the mission and the destiny of the French nation to liberate the people of Europe and despotism. In other words, to help the other people of Europe to become nations. When the news of the events in the France reached the different cities of Europe, students and the other members of the educated middle class began to set up Jacobin clubs. Their activities and campaigns prepared the way for the French armies which moved into Poland, Belgium, Switzerland and the other regions into Italy in the 1790. With the outbreak of the Revolutionary Wars, French armies began to carry the idea of nationalism abroad. Rise and fall of Napoleon. He plays an important role in the European history. Napoleon Bonaparte was born in Ajaccio, island of Corsica, on 15th of April 1769 in a poor lawyer's family. His family had a respectable position. Parents of Napoleon had taken part in the War of Independence of Corsica. Napoleon received his early education at Paris. He was fond of studying history, geography, politics, and mathematics. He also was interested in political science as well as philosophy. He was greatly influenced by Rousseau. He used to say that he had been no Rousseau, there would have been no Napoleon. He used to write to his mother from school that I did not have any friends except the books. In 1785, he was appointed as second lieutenant army head at the age of 16. During the days of French Revolution in 1792, Napoleon completely opposed the lawlessness of the revolutionary France vehemently. The English attacked France in 1793 as a part of attempts of the European nations to put an end to the revolution in France. Napoleon resisted the English naval fleet from capturing Toulon and forced them to take to heels. Robespierre, one of the leaders of the Reign of Terror, praised him for his action and promoted him as a brigadier general. When the people of France revolted against the National Convention on 5th of October 1795, the National Guards with 30,000 soldiers were also supported the rebels. The convention had only 5,000 soldiers, but the Napoleon fired fiercely on the Paris mob and compelled them to flee. The mob of Paris was terrified by this fierce opposition and the rebellion was crushed completely. For this act, he was promoted as the commander of the army of the interior. In May 1798, Napoleon launched a campaign against Egypt. In this battle, Napoleon was defeated by Nelson, the British naval commander. Napoleon returned to France. The people of France were unaware of his defeat and welcomed him as the savior of France. At this time, in France, the people were completely unhappy with the things which are happening with the rule of the Directory. The Directory was not united and failed to maintain the powerful governments and divided itself into two groups, one the Royalists, the other one the Democrats. People of France were tired and their eyes were on Napoleon, and the members of the Directory were afraid after the return of the Napoleon from Egypt. Napoleon gave an impression that he was away from politics. The directors were assured that Napoleon was not planning against them, but an opportune time, Napoleon entered into the assembly along with the soldiers. He was opposed with the slogan, "We do not need Cromwell again." He called the troops into the assembly and they turned out all the opponents. Napoleon from assembly and captured power. Thus on 10th of November 1799, the reign of the Directory came to an end. Napoleon, after capturing power from the consulate government, took the oath of office on the same day and the consulate government assumed its legal form. The consulate was in office between 1799 and 1804. In December 1804, Napoleon got coronated as an Emperor of France in the presence of Pope Pius VII. Thus, by putting an end to the Republic, the foundation for an absolute monarchy was laid. Napoleon was assuming power, waged war against aggression, and has redrawn the main map of Europe through his successful conquest. He made several attempts to crush England. He wanted to make France the superpower of the world. He was victorious in most of the battles. Napoleon introduced a system called Continental System in order to defeat England in an indirect war which compelled the European countries to take active part in the scheme. But to implement this scheme, Napoleon has to wage wars with Portugal, Spain, Russia in order to get this scheme effectively implemented. All these measures he adopted for the success of the scheme provided detrimental, and it completely proved to be unsuccessful to him, and his attempts contributed to the downfall of him. Several attempts were made by other European nations, forming coalitions to crush Napoleon, but he foiled all the coalitions. The fourth coalition was made in 1830 against Napoleon. Prussia, Russia, Sweden, England, and Austria were the main members of the coalition. Fierce battle took place at Dresden at Leipzig. Metternich of Austria led the Allied forces in the battle. At Leipzig, a fierce battle was fought for 3 days in October 1813. This battle was called the Battle of Nations. Napoleon was defeated in this battle and he sealed the fate, but the Allied forces allowed him to retain his title as an emperor and granted him a pension of 2.5 million francs per annum and gave him a small island of Elba to live. But Napoleon retired to the island in April 1814 and Louis XVIII was enthroned. Napoleon suddenly came back in France on 1st of March 1815. As soon as he reached France, his faithful soldiers and officers joined him back. His army began to swell rapidly. Alarmed them to these developments, the Allies were joined again once to defeat Napoleon. On 18th of June 1815, a decisive and fierce battle was fought in the plains of Waterloo. Napoleon and his army was defeated and his fate was sealed completely forever. At the rocky island St. Helena he was sent permanently, and where he died in 1821. After the Battle of Waterloo, the Conference of Heads, European nations all had their meeting in the Congress of Vienna. Now, though Napoleon has destroyed the monarchy, the democratic setup in France, no doubt about that, but in the administrative field, he had incorporated revolutionary principles in order to make the whole system more rational and efficient. The Civil Code of 1804, usually known as the Napoleonic Code, did away with all the privileges based on birth, established equality before the law, secured the right to property. This code was exported to the regions under the French control during the Napoleon's time. In the Dutch Republic, Switzerland, Italy, Germany, and Napoleon simplified the administrative divisions, abolished the feudal system, and freed peasants from serfdom and manorial dues. In the towns too, the guilds restrictions were removed. Transport and the communication systems were improved. Peasants, artisans, workers, businessmen all have found a new freedom, where a small-scale producer of goods in particular began to realize that uniform laws and standard weights and measures and a common national currency would facilitate the movement and the exchange of goods and capital from one region to another region. However, in the areas conquered, the reactions of the local population to the French rule was a mixed one. Initially, in many places such as Holland, Switzerland, as well as in certain cities like Brussels, Milan and Warsaw, the French armies were welcomed as harbingers of liberty, but the initial enthusiasm soon turned to hostility as it became clear that the new administrative arrangements did not go hand in hand with the political freedom. Increased taxation, censorship, forced conscription into the French armies required to conquer the rest of the Europe. All seem to outweigh the advantages of the administrative changes what Napoleon did. To put it in brief for you, Napoleon destroyed democratic setup, no doubt, but he gave certain privileges to people. He did away with the privileges which the first estate, the second estate enjoyed during the old regime. He also established equality before law for everybody. He also secured right to property and brought certain administrative divisions and abolished completely the feudalism and the serfdom for the common people. So this is also called as Napoleonic Code or Civil Code of 1804.